Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. We're keeping things simple today. I've been a little busy, so it's been hard to get in the time I want to have to do the usual Shiny Review, so we're just going to do it this way today. We've got 3 cards to talk about, 2 in the gacha, 1 in the Grade Fest shop. We've got Koito for the produce, Nichika for the support, and then lastly Toru for the Grade Fest support. Starting things off, we have, of course, Koito. This card delves a little bit into Koito's past. I think the animation is interesting as to what it adds, and there is a lot of story building for Koito's character in here, which is great if you're somebody that is a big fan of Koito. Now, as for what this card does, Koito 5 is a pure vocal unit who has access to AoE appeals, which can raise your reaction or evasion, however you want to word it, by 5 or 10% for 3 turns, and it raises your attention by 30% or 50% for 3 turns. We go ahead and take a look at the skill tree just to confirm that. You get 5% reaction for 3 turns, or 10% reaction for 3 turns, 30% attention for 3, or 50% attention for 3. The Link appeals, her initial one requires just Hinata, and it duets randomly with Nocchill. The second, which requires Madoka and Toru, duets specifically with Hinata. So that means that if you do a rotation that involves Toru to Madoka to Koito with this appeal specifically, you add on the Hinata without having her actually appeal, meaning you can now link appeal with anybody that following turn. For her passives, she has a vocal 60% up as long as Koito is on your team, which means this is a guaranteed passive, a 30% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a vocal 100% up and reaction 50% up as long as you have 1 or more active reaction up buffs on that turn. This has a 30% chance to activate twice. The last one is a vocal 160% up at 4 stars, which requires 2 or more active reaction buffs to be able to activate, which has a 20% chance to activate 3 times. She has all the usual stat uncaps, meaning she can get a lot of vocal when fully upgraded, and her passives are obviously pretty good, but can be a little difficult if you are not specifically using Koito's appeals, since again, her reactions last for 3 turns, giving you enough time to potentially activate either the 100% or the 160%. For her memory appeal, it's maxed out at a vocal 2.5 that scales based on how much reaction you have built up, and the Link is a vocal 3.5 under the same scaling. Now, we've learned that how the scaling works is that you need 100% reaction or more to reach that maximum damage. So by default, it means you would cut the vocal 2.5 down by a lot, as well as the 3.5 down by a lot. This memory appeal is actually pretty hard to put together, especially if you are not able to activate at least her 2-star passive to give you 50% of the 100 that you need. So because of that, I'm not going to say that she's a great memory center right now, but if they continue to support vocal Nocchill in this way, Koito has the highest damage potentially out of the other options being Madoka, whether that be MSC or Madoka 2 or Toru 2. So I would say that as a unit, because of all of her solid passives, her great appeals, she's an A tier unit, probably pushing S tier. As for a center, probably looking more towards C right now, but S plus for certain once she gets more support that allows her to reach 100% reaction more frequently. But I imagine they're going to make that difficult to do, given that 100% reaction presumably would mean, well, should realistically then have a 0% chance of being hit, and I don't know if they want Nocchill to hit a point where they are technically invincible for turns. That might be an interesting direction, but I don't know what they're going to do with that. Next up, we have our support, which is Nichika. Nichika is a pure dance support, and works well with revenge or enmity teams, however you want to word that, thanks to her 2-star passive. First off, she has her support skills. The major one being Unit Mastery SP, which reaches plus 10 at level 70. It's also plus 7 at level 50 if you don't happen to upgrade her at all. She has access to Tension Mastery SP+, which means that as long as your tension is max at all times, she can buff up any room with plus 10 SP at level 80. It's plus 8 at level 75, plus 6 at 65, and plus 3 at 55. She has Dance Stay Mastery, which goes up to level 3 by level 70, and is a plus 2 at level 5. Lastly, she has Dance Mastery Stamina, which is +7 at level 80, +5 at level 75, or +3 at level 60. Because of that, I would say that probably the place to stop with Nichika is level 70. So that means you would need to get 3 copies of her or 2 stars, whichever is more colloquial for you. Obviously, she has a lot of positive points at level 80, so if you are running a dance team, maxing her out is totally not a bad idea. I would say avoid this card if you're playing Dance Alstroemeria as we get into the rest of her kit. Her appeals aren't really that crazy. A Dance 2.5 or 3.5 that raise your passive activation chance by 5% for 1 turn if it's the 2.5, or 2 turns if it is the 3.5. It also raises your attention by 30% for 2 turns with the initial appeal, or 50% for 4 turns with the 4-star appeal. Her first passive is a Dance 50% up as long as Nichika's on your team, which has a 20% chance to activate once. She has a Dance 150% up if your health is between 35% or 64%. So again, that's how Revenge can really play into this passive. You don't necessarily have to be dying, but you can be low, which makes it a very, very strong passive. It has a 30% chance to activate once. The last is a Dance 100% up if you are in the dance position. This has a 20% chance to activate once. This is honestly really good. I think that Nichika has a lot of really strong points for dance teams right now, and again, outside of Alstroemeria not being able to really utilize that 150% buff, most of the other dance teams already were kind of relying on Revenge passives to make the most of their strengths, so this card complements a lot of builds very reasonably. I would say that this card is an S- pushing S+. It's very easy to abuse on a lot of dance builds, and is going to be incredibly strong going forward. The last of the cards we're talking about here is Toru. Toru is a pure vocal support who has access to a couple interesting things. Her passives are not really that special when you look at them. Access to things like a 20% reaction up is okay, vocal 20% up in the vocal position. Notably, she has a vocal 150% up when you reach 4 stars, but it requires it to be turn 7 or later in order to activate. Most teams, even right now, do not reach turn 7. So either they're planning something with Gradefest that we're not aware of, or the other theory I've seen is that her passive is meant to be used on things like Match Live that typically take more than 7 turns because you have to last at least, I think it's 11. So having a passive that can activate on turn 7 may give some teams an extra bit of edge to survive Match Live. So maybe a card to look out for. For her masteries, she has a couple interesting ones. She has access to Vocal Mastery Mental, which goes up to +14 at level 75, otherwise it's +6 at level 55. She has Room Mastery, which goes up to level 3 at 60. Vocal Mastery Vocal Limit Up, which goes to a maximum of +3 at level 70. And then Know-How Discovery Mastery, which is +3 at level 80, or +1 at level 65. Naturally, I'm going to tell you that you will want to have as many copies of this Toru as possible. Because this is a Gradefest support, you have a decent amount of time to get all the copies that you can. Her passives are kind of rough, and again, that most notable passive takes 7 turns to activate, and has a 30% chance to activate once, which makes it a little rough, but again, I think it's a card that is sort of built both for grinding out abilities in other modes to eventually move into Step, or to utilize in Match Live in order to give yourself an edge in those later turns. So I would say that for the passives alone, C+ with that weird, caveat of the 150%. Her appeals are also not very good either. The masteries make her really important for building, which I would say push her up at least into like the B to A tier specifically for building. This isn't a card that's necessarily going to be carrying you in Gradefest, but it is a card that has a lot of great merits for building. Presumably this means we're going to get a dance and a visual version of this card with other characters, so having all of those combined together, until we're proven wrong, should mean you're going to have multiple instances to increase your know-how discovery rate, which should be great for building up some strong characters. So that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much as always for watching. Next time we'll be talking about whatever banner comes next. We are not too far away from the 5th anniversary. I'm kind of terrified as to what in the world they're going to bring, so let's look forward to whatever they're going to bring to us on the 12th, and then whatever happens on the 24th. Till then, I've been Cho, thanks for watching, have a wonderful rest of your day.